Now, when we first gave you these results, Ben Carson was at second place, so that's a big difference. Ted Cruz at 18%, and look at Jeb Bush with only 1%. And there you have it, everyone else in the single digits. We still want to hear from you. Let us know who you think won this presidential debate. Newsmaxpolls.com is the place to go, and we'll have another update and bring you the numbers shortly. But for right now, we want to head on over to John Bachman, who is standing by with some very familiar faces. How you doing, John?
I'm doing great, Miranda, and so is our panel here. Familiar faces. You may have seen them on some of our Newsmax TV programming here. And we heard Jeb Bush there at 1% of our poll. I saw a tweet from one of Marco Rubio's campaign staffers saying there's no need to pile on Jeb Bush based on his performance. Big time ouch. Also, Sarah Samuels, my producer, just handed us this statement from the RNC and Reince Priebus. He says, quote, "While I was proud of our candidates and the way they handled tonight's debate, the performance by the CNBC moderators was extremely disappointing and did a disservice to their network, our candidates, and voters. CNBC should be ashamed of how this debate was handled." You know, that's not just a talking point coming from the chairman of the Republican National Committee. I think that was a consensus among a lot of the viewers, the audience there for the debate. And we want to highlight some of that. And that starts with John Harwood, who's one of the anchors moderating the debate tonight. Let's play the very first question that he sent to Donald Trump. Let's take a listen.
Is this a comic book version of a presidential campaign?
It's not a comic book. And it's not a very nicely asked question, the way you say that. Larry Kudlow, as an example, who I have a lot of respect for, loves my tax plan. We're reducing taxes to 15%. We're bringing corporate taxes down, bringing money back in, corporate inversions. We have $2.5 trillion outside of the United States, which we want to bring back in. As far as the wall is concerned, we're going to build a wall. We're going to create a border. We're going to let people in, but they're going to come in legally. They're going to come in legally. And it's something that can be done.
Lisa Ruth, let's start with you. This kind of set the tone for the debate. Donald Trump predicted it was going to be unfair. Was it unfair?
I don't know that it was unfair. I thought it was equally bad across the board, frankly. I don't know that it was helpful to the voters, however. And I think that the moderators really did a terrible job of keeping things under control, keeping the questions where they needed to be. And really, it was a bad job. There's no way around it.
All right, there's a couple other sound bites I want to get to get our panel's reaction from. Let's play that other clip of Marco Rubio. We played the Ted Cruz clip where he went after the media. Here's the one where Marco Rubio did something similar.
You know, the Democrats have the ultimate super PAC. It's called the mainstream media. Who every single day, and I'll tell you why.
All right, so that was one of only a few applause lines from the audience. Applause lines. We'll talk about the response that got a boo coming up. But Javier, Marco Rubio, very deft in this approach to attacking the mainstream media. Is this something you expect him to carry through to the rest of his campaign?
No, I think it was smart first to pile on like the other guys did, because I think he finished off with going after the mainstream media. But again, it's something everyone has known, that the mainstream media, as he calls it, is complicit with the Democrat Party. And why wouldn't he? If he's going to, I expect the fundraising ask from him probably tomorrow, day after tomorrow, against the mainstream media. So yeah, I think he is going to continue on with this.
Oh, I think it's on already. If my Twitter feed tells me anything. When you see that these candidates are supposed to be asking questions and debating each other, Lisa Palmer, psychoanalyst, but when you see them kind of all rally around each other and go after the moderators, it's something similar to a mutiny.
Well, in that case, they have a lot of common ground, because I think the moderators, actually one of the first things I wrote were that they were horrible, rude, and disorganized. And Donald Trump agreed with me when he said they were nasty, ridiculous questions. And I think that Donald Trump was very appropriate in his response to the moderator as well. And by the way, I think he answered the first question very well, and I thought they were extremely tough on him. They were tough on a lot of the candidates, but I think they were tough on him. And by the way, I think that they should have given him more time, because he is the front runner and he only got, what, 8 minutes?
Yes, the range in times, 10 minutes for 11 minutes for Marco Rubio, down to about 6 minutes for Rand Paul, and the total time allotted. Also interesting to note that John Harwood, one of the moderators, had to send out an apology tweet for totally messing up Marco Rubio's tax plan. We heard a couple of other apologies, too, from Becky Quick as well. Another soundbite I want to play, going back to Donald Trump, was when he went after Ohio Governor John Kasich. Let's take a listen.
First of all, John got lucky with a thing called fracking, okay? He hit oil. He got lucky with fracking. Believe me, that's why Ohio is doing well. And that's important for you to know. Number two, this is the man that was a managing general partner at Lehman Brothers when it went down the tubes and almost took every one of us with us, including Ben and myself.
Wow, Lehman Brothers, going back there. I don't think Glenn Downs, former chief of staff for Walter Jones, that Kasich ever really recovered from this.
Well, that really was a blow that had some effect. And I think part of the reason why was that there's a general feeling in the body politic that the sins of that 2008-2009 financial crisis were never paid for by the people who caused them. The people that caused a lot of the problems actually came out with more power. And so that's a vein that not only Donald Trump hit, but several of the other people touched on as well.
And the next Trump soundbite I want to play was when he went after the super PACs in this country, sounding almost like Bernie Sanders, but also hitting on this populist tone that has resonated so much through this campaign. And we'll get John Brown's insight on that. But let's go ahead and play the clip.
Super PACs are a disaster. They're a scam. They cause dishonesty. And you better get rid of them because they are causing a lot of bad decisions to be made by some very good people. And I'm not blaming these folks, but I guess I could. Very good people are making very bad decisions right now. And if anything comes out of this whole thing with some of these nasty and ridiculous questions, I will tell you, you better get rid of the super PACs because they're causing a big problem with this country.
John, this is great to get your perspective on this. You were in Parliament in the UK, and you've obviously become a student of the American political system as well. These super PACs, when you hear Donald Trump hit these super PACs in this way, the Democrats do something similar. Will this work for him and help him appeal to a broader range of voters?
Yes, I think so, because I think what gets people very upset is to see the power of moneyed interests exerted on the politicians. You get elected to power as an elected representative of the people. The moment you get in there, you've lost all control, partly to your party elite, where you then become a party delegate as opposed to a representative of the people, and secondly, the power of the money. And this is one of the great attractions that Donald Trump has, is he's self-financed. He will, if he gets the presidency, he will owe money to no one. And he will be his own president on behalf of the people of the United States, not the vested interests of big business and big banks.
All right, speaking of finances, I want to play one last clip for everybody. This one from Marco Rubio, and I think this might be the one that kind of sealed the deal. It's always helps him, I believe, when he talks about his personal story. Let's take a listen.
My 4 children have been able to receive a good Christian education, and I've been able to save for them to go to college, so they never have to have the loans that I did. But I'm not worried about my finances. I'm worried about the finances of everyday Americans who today are struggling in an economy that is not producing good-paying jobs while everything else costs more. And that's what this economy needs to be. That's what this debate needs to be about.
All right, Javi, let's wrap it up with you. Always good for Marco Rubio when he can tell this story, because I think a lot of Americans really identify, especially younger Americans who are trying to raise families, identify with this story.
Oh, they do. Also, back to what he said earlier about his debt, about when they attacked him on his past issues about money he owed and how he came with through this big windfall that he was able to pay off his debt. Well, a lot of people can relate with it. Maybe not getting $1 million bonus for writing a book, but a lot of people can relate with, a better job or working 2 jobs. So yeah, people relate, and it always works well for him.
All right. Well, thank you very much, and thanks to our panel. We'll send it back to a commercial break. We'll be right back after this.